We'll call to order the regular meeting of the Chicago Board of Election Commissioners for Tuesday, October 22nd, 2013. Good morning, everyone. My name is Langdon Neal. I am chairman of the board. Seated to my left is Commissioner Marisol Hernandez, and to my right is Commissioner Richard Cowan. First item on the agenda is the consideration of the minutes from October 8th, 2013.
Motion to approve.
Moved by Member Hernandez, seconded by Commissioner Cowan. Further discussion, hearing none, all is in favor?
Aye.
We'll move on to the Executive Director's report. Mr. Goff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My voice is going in and out, so if I lose it, please bear with me. Just to let the board members know that we're getting a return. In fact, Mr. Allen's not here. Our canvas that we did, our mail canvas, is working out very well. We received about over 10,000 change of addresses so far. We're removing a sizable amount off of it. For the board members, I'll have a written breakdown of what the canvas looks like. We still need about another week to get a better picture of it, but it's going very well so far. We found some problems with the geocode. We're making those corrections, so everything seems to be going all right so far. We are getting inquiries from campaigns. In fact, we have some campaigns coming in. We're reviewing the computers, reviewing their petitions, so that it's petition time already. So I just want you to know that it's going full speed ahead. We've been asked for extended hours already. So it's going to be a very busy season for us. And basically, that's all we have. Everybody's working on items. We still haven't received additional funds for our part-time employees. I've been asked by different departments for additional bodies to work. We just don't have the funds for it. So it's something that I've been asking the city for. The city never gave us the funding for the special congressional election that we had. So we're going to be running near or close to the red. So I just wanted the board members to be aware of it. We've sent letters and correspondence to the city and have not gotten a response yet. So,
Well, it's budget season, so hopefully maybe we can raise these during the
I think we
budget
will
process.
do it in front of city council.
Okay.
So. Ms. Bates?
Good morning.
Good morning, Ms. Bates.
Good morning. The entire office has been assisting with the registration department to get the registrations in and to assist with the canvas. So that has worked out. They've been all summer. Other departments were helping with registration, so that was a big help. We had our first managers meeting yesterday, so it's, Mr. Goff said, it's election season. We are back in the mode, so everyone came together and just started discussing what we need to get through the next 6 months, 8 months. We formed an evaluation committee for the e-poll book RFP responses. So the committee is reviewing the responses, and we will continue to meet and get that moving.
Excellent.
How many responses have we received, and is there a deadline?
We received 8 responses from 8 vendors. Is there a deadline?
To submit the RFP?
Yes, it was October 10th. The deadline has passed, correct.
We have eight different vendors. Oh, that's good.
Companies who submitted responses.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. Anything else, Ms. Bateman? All righty. Mr. Allen, I don't know, did you want to go back and talk about the canvas at all? Mr. Goff covered
Real
it.
quickly, I trust that all the commissioners and all your family members received their cards.
We did.
And
We did.
it seemed to be fairly successful. We've only had a few very minor issues. We had something come up with about 40 cards. So overall, in a mailing of 1.4 million, we're usually going to run into that. We're going to be able to replace those. But we've had actually a few people come back to us since this process began and ask, how did you know that I moved? You know, how did you move me already? And you sent me a piece at my new address, and we explained to them the process that we went through. So that it was almost like a surprise reaction, like you're actually working well. So it was very nice. The website, you've seen the mock-ups. We haven't received comprehensive feedback from all the staff, but all the feedback that we have received has been very positive, so we're moving ahead with that. We've got a meeting on the high school registration today with the McCormick Foundation, MICVA, Chicago Public Schools. These are the mock-ups, and we're going to be using the MICVA students for posters for high school placement. We're going to use the kids at MICVA to do kind of like a mini focus group. Now, this is the poster that Lance and I liked, and my at-home teenage focus group said this is the poster we should go with. So we'll find out. And
See, hold those two up.
Yeah.
See if I can.
That's
This
more
one look-
color.
One has more pizzazz and one's more bland. So
according
it's
to
the-
my son, this one looked more like homework.
Ah,
And this one actually got his
okay.
attention.
All right.
And
What do
Just
we
so you know.
Jim?
Yeah.
Kelly accused me of doing this as a Packer fan.
Oh,
But
no.
there's no truth
Yes.
to that at all.
No, no.
None. And then we're also working with the Archdiocese on this front, and we've got to reach out to all of the independent schools around the city. So University of Chicago Lab School, Francis Parker, and the like. So, and then other than that, we've been cleaning up the files for the electoral board decisions, the links on the website, and we should have all of that up and ready for the electoral board season in the next week.
Excellent. Any questions for Mr. Allen? All righty. We'll move to old business, infrastructure projects. We're moving on our infrastructure projects, so excellent work there. Voting equipment, do we have anything we want to talk about specifically there? Nope, okay. Legislation, Mr. Scanlon, anything for us to talk about?
Nothing to report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Is it anticipated that anything affecting elections going to come up in the veto session?
I don't anticipate that to be the case.
Okay. All right, we have bids to consider under new business. Consideration of bids for printing of the election judge handbooks, signs, forms, envelopes, and a provisional voter affidavit envelope. Mr. Goff, you going to handle that? Or
In your folder, in the board pamphlet, has the different, has a list of all the companies that we send bid specs to. It also has that we printed this in the newspaper, and after reviewing the returns for printing of the election judge handbooks for the 2014 and 2015 elections, Lake County Press, in the amount of $102,148 was the lowest bidder. I recommend giving them the contract for printing of the election judge handbook.
All right, let me get to that. Is that the first one? Okay. Ah, thank you. All right, there's a staff recommendation that the printing of the judge handbook be awarded to Lake County Press in the amount of $102,148 and $148. $102,148. Is there a motion?
I move that we award the bid to Lake County Press for the printing of the judges' handbooks in an amount not to exceed $102,148.
Moved by Commissioner Cowan.
Second?
Seconded by Commissioner Hernandez. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Well, there's a recommendation from Mr. Goff that we approve the bid for printing of signs for the 2014 election to Summers and Fairbach. Huh?
Fahrenbach.
Fahrenbach. in the amount of $17,844.23. They were the low bidder on the job, on the procurement. Is there a motion to approve?
A motion to approve the awarding of the bid for printing of signs for the 2014 election to Summers and Fehrenbach in the amount of $17,844.23.
Moved by Commissioner Hernandez, seconded by Commissioner Cowan. Further discussion, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That'll be the order. We have a recommendation from Mr. Goff that the printing of forms for the 2014 election be awarded to Palmer Printing in the amount of $31,644. And I believe they were the low bidder
Yes, they
on
were.
that bid.
Okay.
Is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve the Palmer Printing as the awardee for the printing of forms for the 2014 elections in the amount of $31,644.
Moved by Commissioner Hernandez,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Cowan. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That'll be the order. We have a bid, a recommendation from Mr. Goff to approve a bid for the printing of envelopes for the 2014 election be awarded to Palmer Printing in the amount of $23,981.20. The lowest bidder on this procurement.
Motion to approve Palmer Printing as the awardee for the printing of envelopes for the 2014 elections in the amount of $23,981.20.
Moved by Commissioner Hernandez,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Cowan. Further discussion?
So I just have a question.
Mhm.
A particular reason that they were the only bidder on envelopes?
You know, there aren't very many envelope companies around, and they're the ones that could get us to the as fast as possible. So, you know, we went out to other envelope companies, but there aren't very many envelope companies out there right now, especially in the city of Chicago.
Yeah. Well, we certainly made the bid available to quite a number of companies.
There also is a factor that the provisional ballot envelope is a very distinct product is a complex product.
And that's
Palmer, that's the killer in
yeah.
this one.
All the detail on the provisional ballot envelope.
It's got a plastic pouch outside that has, it's an irregular size.
Yeah.
It has all kinds of printing instructions for the judges, election of the voters. And then it's got a form that's attached to it, a multi-part form, if I recall, Kelly. That's part of it, that it gives a receipt to the voter. So it's a very specialized envelope.
Yeah.
It's not a standard envelope by any stretch of the imagination.
Okay?
And that's the next bid that you have.
We didn't vote on that one.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. That'll be the order.
And the last one.
The last one is the
276.
276P provisional voter affidavit envelope. That's the one you were talking about.
Yes.
Be awarded to Chicago Press Corp. in the amount of $50,679. The lowest bidder.
And if you look how close those bids were, the Chicago Press DG Printing and JJ Collins. Was JJ Collins was $50,980, and DG Printing was $52,881, and Chicago Press was $50,679. So it was very competitive.
Chairman, I move we award the bid for the 276 feet original voted envelopes to Chicago Press Corp. in an amount not to exceed $50,607.
Second?
Moved and properly seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
That'll be the order. Okay. We now have approval of contracts for hearing officers. Jim, do you want to say anything about this?
Just as Mr. Allen alluded to, we're coming up on the electoral board season. I anticipate first meeting of the electoral board to be on or about December 16th. And to prepare for that, the board needs to approve contracts for hearing officers. They are under a one-year agreement which expires November 30th of this year, so we need to approve new contracts going into the 2014 election cycle. Presented to you a list of 22 attorneys. These, with the exception of Mr. Anthony Iasco, who was a former hearing officer. In years past, all of the people that are on the list are existing hearing officers, so we're just asking for a contract a new contract for these individuals going into 2013 and 2014. And this would be at a rate of $200 per hour, which is the same rate as provided for by the Circuit Court of Cook County rules for public members who serve on electoral boards. So the terms and conditions of their employment have not changed. It's the same contract as the existing contract and for contracts years past. So I would ask the board's approval.
Chairman, I move we approve the list of hearing officers as presented by our general counsel.
Second?
Moved by Commissioner Cowan, seconded by Commissioner Hernandez. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
That'll be the order.
Thank you.
Legal report. Mr. Scanlon, anything for us today?
Nothing further, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, that's always good news.
Yes, it is.
All right, we have two financial reports. One for the City of Chicago, 13-07, dated October 22nd, in the amount of $38,324.07. $38,324.07.
Motion.
Approval.
Second?
Moved and properly seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then we have a financial voucher listing for the County of Cook. Voucher number 13-06, dated October 22nd, 2013, in the amount of $184,150.25.
Motion to approve?
Moved by Commissioner Hernandez.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Cowan. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 That'll be the order. Okay, that completes our regular agenda. We will now open the floor to any public comment. Any public comment today? Oh. Good morning. Ms. Maroney?
Good morning, how are you?
Good morning.
Well, I believe that the board is in receipt of the letters that I sent you regarding the election equipment.
Yes.
And I didn't want to interrupt the meeting to bring it up during the election equipment segment, but I think this would be a good time to discuss the fact that our research has uncovered that the equipment being used in Chicago is not currently under an interim approval. And even if the board, the Illinois State Board of Elections justification is accepted, which I don't think it will be, that the system that you have was is you don't have the image cast system, essentially the election equipment isn't certified. And I've spoken with the person involved with the EAC and have made them aware of the issue, and we are going to go forward until we assure that these equipment is either independently assessed by a laboratory such as Argonne, such that they pass the 2002 voter standards, or they'll be replaced before the upcoming election, which is the primary. I don't see how the board can reauthorize this equipment since it was removed from the testing, independent lab testing program by Dominion Voting.
Commissioner Town?
Well, Sharon, isn't our guideline the state board? In other words, if the state board has certified it, what is it that you're suggesting we can or should do? Or are you simply saying you have a difference of opinion with the state board?
Well, that's an interesting question, because I would acknowledge that Chicago Board of Elections can utilize any equipment that has been approved by the state. And surely that's what we have done. So I don't think that this is a finger-pointing exercise in any case whatsoever. The issue is that the law is fairly clear. You have to be approved by an independent lab. Your system has not had that approval process, and I will be going to the board and asking them to, number one, remove the interim approval for the image cast system, because the law requires that every system in Illinois has to be approved by a lab, and that system was never even submitted for an approval, as was tested in Illinois.
Now, have you raised those issues specifically with the state board?
I did. Did you get a copy of my letter? I sent it through.
Yes, I saw the letter, but I'm not clear on whether there's been a response from the state board, or if so, what their response has been. Other than my understanding is they're saying our equipment is certified.
Well, there's the initial letter, and then they responded to that, and then I sent the follow-up letter, which is the 6-page one, which followed extensive research into the actual process, and they have not responded to that. And I do expect some response fairly shortly today.
From the state board?
From that meeting, actually. They're backed up. So that would be one big issue, and I think that as the commissioners, that it would behoove you to, seriously consider, I don't know, I'm not meaning to tell you your job, let me just make sure that's clear, but I do believe that we're going to go forward with Defend the Vote to ensure that the equipment that is utilized in Chicago and Cook County has the state certifications that are required, and if they don't, then, and if it's not a cooperative thing, then we'll have to go to court and get a mandamus, because surely, I'm sure everybody's on the same page. We want to have the right election equipment. We also know that you're under some budgetary constraints. So, that would be my thought, is that the next step is to also inform the city council and all of the aldermen, which I have not had a chance to do yet, but I plan to do that within the next 48 hours.
It just seems to me that until the state board tells us otherwise, the scheme of things in election law in Illinois is that the state board makes the decision on certification, and once they've made that decision, that's binding on the local jurisdictions. In other words, we couldn't, if they say something is not certified, I don't see that we have the authority to use it. And conversely, if they say it's certified, I think that's our guiding principle in terms of what election equipment can be used. So it still seems to me that this is an issue that needs to be clarified at the state board.
I agree.
If there's going to be any change in it.
Well, I understand that, from a bureaucratic perspective.
No, it's not a bureaucratic perspective, Sharon. It's a legal perspective.
Right.
Correct.
Well, and I was going to finish my sentence by saying, in terms of administration, that would be the perspective that you would take. From a security perspective, which is where I'm speaking from, we're looking for systems that have passed minimal, very, very minimal standards of the 2002 election code. And we're also looking to make sure that, assuming that that you care about the quality of the elections too, that there's nothing in the law that prohibits you from making a decision on your own and saying, you know, this equipment hasn't been properly tested or hasn't completed the testing, and we are going to be replacing it, we should really hurry it up. There's nothing that Mr. Scanlon, he could look at the laws as himself and advise the board as to whether or not a legal challenge would, you know, the equipment would survive that. There's a number of actions I think the board could take while this is unwinding, because we're in the middle of an election season. And
Right,
as
but
we all know,
Ms.
the
Moran-
timeline just kills us.
But I still, like, how can we, you just said that we can take certain actions, but we just stated that we have to follow what the State Board of Elections has decided, and until they decide otherwise, we just can't go off on our own and do something that conflicts with the the state election board decisions and mandate. I just don't,
I guess I'm confused because there's nothing in the law that requires you to use one piece of equipment or another. What the law states is that you can't use any equipment unless it's been authorized. So, you know, there's nothing that really compels you to use that system. You just have to, you're restricted to systems that are authorized in Illinois. And I would suggest that the one that's currently on the table is not going to be reauthorized. And it certainly
okay, but we
won't.
still need that mandate from the state election board, right? I mean,
At
we,
one level perhaps, but not at another. It doesn't, there's nothing that prohibits you from being proactive and beginning the process.
but as far as we know, the state has said that this equipment, as far as we know, we have not received anything from the state election board stating that this equipment is not authorized, right, or certified.
Yeah, well, you know, they sent me an email, and I have posted it on our website. I'd be happy to give you a personal copy of it, that claims that the expiration date of the current interim approval is September 12th, 2014.
Okay, but that's something that you have to take up with the state election board. That's right? That's why you're going to the state election board meeting later this morning.
That is correct.
Right.
But again, that doesn't prohibit you from proactively acting.
Well, I'm just going to sum this up saying that we've been using this system since 2006. It has counted millions of ballots in, I don't know how many elections since 2006, roughly 2 a year since 2006, and has worked fairly flawlessly in terms of accuracy and security. So I can't think of a better field test. I would say to Argonne Labs, you've got at least 12 elections of field test of this equipment. I don't know which more you want, but I leave that up to the scientists at Argonne. But it seems to me that it's a little late to the party testing an election system that's been utilized and counted millions of ballots, that has had recounts in which the accuracy has been sustained and overseen by the Circuit Court of Cook County. I'm just not more sure that what more you want. But that's not for me to tell you or Argonne in terms of what you'd like to do. So that's just my perspective.
Well, I guess my response to that would be that, for instance, we do not do forensic testing except for the 5% audits to verify that there aren't problems, and that some of the problems that have been discovered are issues that there is no tracking to find out if you're currently having those. Now, you're right, there has been an accuracy rate
Yes.
that is considerable, but fortunately, Illinois law is not based on the accuracy rate, except that there's supposed to be 0 inaccuracies. It's based on whether or not the equipment has met the standards of 2002 voting standards, is what the Board of Elections, Illinois State Board adapted. There has to be an independent lab testing of the system. And there's reasons for those laws. And I think that is the reason that I'm here to say, yeah, it might have had an okay record. It's old technology, it was interim technology, and let's move forward, because it's not going to be, I don't, you know, even to your point, Commissioner Marcella, I think that if they approve, if they allow this approval to continue till September of 2014, we will challenge it. However, if the next step is can they reauthorize it, or provide a second interim approval? And I don't see how the law is going to allow them to do that. But, we'll find out.
Okay. We'll anxiously await the results of your work. Okay, one.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
What? I think.
We all know who you are, but you have to say, for the
I'm
few
sorry.
chance that they don't know who you are, you have to identify yourself for the record.
Jeanette Wilson.
Ms. Wilson.
And I would suggest to this board that I think you've run some excellent elections over the past, at least the past 10 to 20 years. 10 I know for sure. And one of the things I would caution the young lady that spoke, we don't want to incur any additional unnecessary costs just because groups have some ideas that they want to promote. In the interest of justice and fairness and the interest of budget equity, we don't want this board to spend any resources fighting, chasing windmills like Don Quixote, when we need to be spending our resources more to make sure that more people have access to voting. And I think that that's what you have been focused on in the past. I don't think that these machines that we've been using have been creating any problems that the community has raised concerns about. The biggest concerns have been making sure that there were enough polling places that are open long enough for people to vote. And I think we should shift our focus to that area and not spend any amount of resources testing equipment that has been tested by the voters from 2006 to now. So, I just think that we need to stay focused, and I respect the right of people to raise questions and concerns, but this has been raised over and over again by the same group. They work. I mean, machines work. Votes have been questioned in the courts and survived all of the litigation. Because, it's pretty. It's not absolutely flawless, but it is much better than most states in the United States. So for that, I think this board should be commended.
Thank you. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Howard Kramer with Dominion Voting. I'd just like to point out, as you already have, there is no question about certification. The products in question are certified. There are sufficient appropriate test reports to support that, or frankly, those products would not have been certified in Illinois. We have a letter that restates that position, I believe clearly drafted by Mr. Smith, which I thank him for doing so with a couple days' notice. I have Mr. Goff, Mr. Rohr, and Mr. Borgsmiller's names on this letter, and I'll be happy to share some copies with Mr. Goff. But it strikes me, if I may, that the dialogue seems to keep coming back to the vulnerability assessment, which I believe that topic has been well and sufficiently responded to. I'm not sure what else there is to say other than the core argument as articulated 17th of October is flawed, and we come back to this issue of the vulnerability assessment we have discussed. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for us today?
Yeah, this is really not about the vulnerability assessment. This is about the law in Illinois and whether or not the equipment fulfills the statement towards the law. And we do care a lot about the security, regardless in terms of ability to be utilized by different types of voters. I do not believe that the 2002 standards have been met for HAVA on the Edge Plus 2 version that you have 1.77. So that would be another issue. But moving on, I wanted to also raise a couple of other quick points. We have not actually closed the subject on vulnerability assessment. The last statement was that we were going to present a document and we're going to get together and go forward with finding where common grounds where we can go do some assessment on the systems. And that meeting has not taken place. I'd like to schedule that sometime today so that we can move forward and get the vulnerability. Because your last words, Commissioner Cowan, was that you thought for sure we could get some kind of vulnerability assessment going and just had to get the parties together. So this might be a great day to do that.
I don't think I said the first part of that. I don't know whether you'll reach common ground. I encourage you to try. So I'm not making any assumption one way or the other. I understand there was a meeting. I hope if necessary there are more meetings, but I don't know what that's going to produce in terms of a result. I'm leaving that to all of the parties who will then report to the board.
Well, and my concern is that Dominion believes that their equipment is certifiable, then why won't they permit some kind of an assessment on procedures, processes, and on the machine to ensure that whatever's going on is in the most secure fashion as is possible?
I guess, Sharon, I have a trouble here because, as I kind of said earlier, our equipment is field tested every election. It has been since 2006. And that includes every aspect, its reliability, its functionality, its ease of use by our voters, its security, its vulnerability. All of that gets tested in a real battle, so to speak, the actual operation of an election. So I guess I feel that when we discuss this, we're trying to disprove a negative or find a problem that have never heard you say really exists. Is there an identifiable issue that you can quantify clearly or specifically describe with the system? Or is this an expedition to find one?
Well, there's actually a number of issues. First of all, when we began our first audit of election systems in Illinois, we did a surprise investigation of 269 precincts in the Chicago area, and we found that 25% of the time there was not a proper chain of custody on the memory devices.
Yeah, and we've
Let me
talked
finish.
about that. I'm just going to take one piece at a time because we get lost, I think, sometime in the discussion. Yes, you did bring chain of custody issues to us, and we worked together, and actually, I think you'd agree, improved our chain of custody processing. That was very, very helpful to us, your input, and was productive. And so, but that's not a vulnerability assessment of the equipment. That dealt with it dealt with our operational rules on how we handle the equipment in the precinct and election results. Those were things we did with our procedures, our internal procedures at the Board of Elections.
Right, but really that's what a vulnerability assessment does, is it looks at procedures as well as at the firmware and the hardware. So it predated my interaction with Argonne, but essentially it was the same kind of a model.
Mm-hmm.
And what I was going to say was that those problems were mitigated by change,
Yeah.
but we still don't have tamper-proof, tamper-resistant, tamper-evident seals on the equipment, which is one step forward that we would like to go, because that would make sure that there's no issues related to those seals being able to jimmy in just seconds, which they can. And when you're talking about this whole process, I just don't think we're done yet. I would not say that for sure the equipment in Chicago, despite the wonderful elections that we've had, is giving us accurate results, because we haven't tracked it yet. Just I can't. And the Illinois law is not based on that anyways. It's based on whether or not the equipment has gone through certification. And we might go change that, I don't know, but that's not going to be what I'm going to do.
Okay.
And, okay, so then the other thing was in terms of the, with the envelopes that you're getting printed, when we did the assessment on nursing home voting, I don't recall if it was Chicago or Cook County that was using the same envelopes for the absentee voting as the nursing home voting. And there was some issues because sometimes, you know, the signing and the signatures on the envelopes were different, so I didn't know. Do you have separate envelopes for absentee and nursing home?
No, it's the same envelope, right? Same envelope.
Yeah. So that envelope does not require for two judges to sign the envelope to indicate that they have both witnessed the voting by the individual, the resident of the home. And that's a flaw in the system, in our view.
I think that has been changed. I can't tell you for sure right
We'll,
now.
we'll look into that. Yeah, I know there's at least one signature on that. There's at least one signature
No,
on the
there are two
envelope.
signatures on
There are
that.
two signatures on the envelope?
A
Okay.
Democrat and Republican judge.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. So we'll verify that. I think there are two signatures on the envelope.
And it'll be in the nursing home handbook, so I'll get you a copy.
Yeah. Okay.
And we were going to get back to each other about the training of the election judges on spotting voter fraud in terms of signature analysis. And I wanted to make sure we scheduled that meeting before you go to print your new election judge manual.
I did we say we were going to talk about that issue? I don't remember. I know I had my feelings about that issue that I expressed and my concern that
Mr. Chairman.
we're already let me just finish this thought before I lose it. That we're already overburdened. I mean, you're hitting on a fundamental issue, and that is how much we ask our judges to do, which continues in my 16 years here. It's night and day from when I first started to what it is today. The handbook is far more complex, far more difficult, and we're asking our volunteer citizens who work for minimum wage and work as many as 18 hours 2 times a year to handle a lot of material. And now we want to talk about making them handwriting experts to spot, fraudulent signatures. They use their basic intelligence and observations that any human being brings with them to the job. Now, but to give them extra training on spotting fraudulent signatures is problematic to me. But that was just my opinion. I didn't know where we left it, Mr. Goff. I'm sorry.
I have discussed with a handwriting expert, and I'm meeting with him further to figure out what can do. But his comment was, well, do you have 6 to 8 hours to do a training? And I said, no. You have to put it within the 3-hour training or 4-hour training of our judges. So he's looking at that, and he's going to get back with me.
I would be happy, since I've been researching this topic,
Yes.
I would be happy to write a short proposal for information you could include in the election judge.
That would be
manual
helpful.
That might help to guide the conversation, because I would still say that, since our issue is security, if the one line of security we have between voter fraud and, a voter that's authorized to vote is whether or not their signature matches, at least, as you had suggested in our earlier conversation, 10 minutes of review on how to spot fraudulent signatures could certainly help.
I'll anxiously wait for your suggestions.
Here,
Yeah.
take that.
Yes, Ms. Wilson
Yeah,
again
one
from
minute.
Operations Push.
While we, I understand the focus on security and all of that. The biggest issue is getting people out to vote. And the more onerous you make this process, the more difficult it is for ordinary people to make adjustments. Now if you're going to be analyzing my handwriting and all that stuff. So I just hope that in the next board meeting, there can be some discussion about, how important this next election is and the turnout for all communities and how significant that is. And I would hope that maybe some of the community groups, we to meet as a group, because I don't want me as one individual, one organization to shape what the board does or doesn't do without a broader group of community representatives in the debate and not just leave it to three commissioners on some of these questions. So I think it needs to be a broader discussion. Some of this is legal and some of this is really community organizing to frustrate the election process. So we need to have more voices in the room. And so for maybe the next board meeting, just invite the rest of us who work in this area and have been concerned and raised some concerns and seen resulting improvements in the election process, work with our sister community.
You raise a very, very good point. Thank you for doing that. You know, we have to, we try to be respectful and open and always available to receive public comment. But you're right. We have to balance a lot of interest because every decision affects everyone. And so it may appear to some that we don't give serious responses, but or we may not give them what they want, so to speak, but everything has a cause and effect, and so we have to balance everyone's input. The people who are here to speak, and the people who don't come, who can't come, and who we meet out in the community. I mean, when we did our community outreach, we had, how many community groups did we have? 140 representative community groups that we met with to discuss shaping our policy here and how we run elections and our voting equipment and everything. So there are a lot of voices that always aren't, that we take into consideration that maybe we don't hear from at each individual meeting. So thank you.
And Chairman, we are sending out letters to those community groups too, to get in contact with them, to go over some procedures, so
Yes.
just to let you know.
Yes, thank you.
Well, I think one of the great things is that now that you're posting your videos online, I don't know if you've noticed, but at least one of them has hit over 100 views, which means 100 people that didn't get to go to your meetings before are now seeing them. So I think that must be really good news for everybody.
Well,
And,
thank you,
I will
Sharon.
conclude by stating that the biggest distractor to voter turnout is the feeling that your vote just doesn't count because it's being stolen anyway. So actually, election integrity is one of the most important things that any of us can take on.
I'm going to let you get the last word. Sure. Okay. Oh, thank you for the dialogue. It is always appreciated and well received here. So, if there's anything else, nothing else to come before the board, I will accept a motion to recess until our next meeting, which is November 12th. Is that right? Is that 2 weeks? Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
November 12th at, it's a little over 2 weeks. isn't it?
That's, yeah, the second.
Strange, yeah.
It's the second.
Second Tuesday, yeah. November 12th at 9 o'clock.
So moved?
Moved and properly seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay.